What's up, guys? Somebody here. It's a Friday and another one. Lyle Lakay speaks out. Another South African going to Europe. And we look at the MTN8 coming this weekend. Let's get into it.
That's how it goes?
They keep asking about the best when they know it's me.
Okay.
Asking about the rest when they know it's me.
Straight in, I guess.
You know it's me.
The international period has come to an end. Bafana Bafana playing their game, Sierra Leone and as well as Botswana. We saw Sierra Leone's game. I thought that was the standout game. And as for Botswana, I did speak about it in my video that I posted, that the performance was a little bit under par. I spoke about the fact that some players did not necessarily grab the opportunity because Hugo gave a chance to majority of the players to play a couple of minutes within the games. I will say this, though. There were players that raised their hands, so I'll choose to stick on to the positive. There were players that raised their hands, and for me, I've put these players down, and as you can see on screen, the first one being Mehlali Mayambela. I think he's a mainstay. He's going to stay. His pace is there. He even came on in the second half for Botswana and he sort of changed the game, created a chance, also had his own chance as well. Themba Zwane, his experience, he definitely needs to stay within the Bafana Bafana setup, considering the fact that he wasn't called up to previous games, but he definitely can be used. Sekgotla too as well. The fact that obviously what he does down the wings and how he's so direct, he's definitely someone who's raised his hand. Mayela, the Orlando Pirates captain. Same thing with him, and I think ever since he took on the captain's armband for Orlando Pirates, I think he has grown. He has grown as a player as well, and I think also Sibisi having to be next to him sort of has helped him as well. Mudiba, left back, of course, it's going to be very fierce in that position because there's a lot of players competing for that, but I thought his goal, he took it really well. I think he's also a mainstay. Luke Leroux, very committed, I've also said, and I think he also gives options. He gives options, and also he can play in a lot of positions as well. If you want him to play CM, he can play there. He can play just in front of the defense as well, and also he can play right back, apparently. So he can play there too. Lepasa didn't get the goals, but I just think his movement, he caused a lot of trouble as well. And then lastly, obviously, Kaizer Mayo. I think he was good in the Botswana game, didn't get a goal too as well, but he's able to just make runs and always cause defenses to move around as well. So in the same mold as Lepasa is, I didn't mention all the other players because I think we've seen what Mokoena has been able to do in a Bafana shirt. We've seen what Sithole has been able to do, Pepelo. And also Williams as well, captain. He's the captain. I think he's a mainstay as well. And Mudau too, very solid. That's what you get from him. So I would say these are the players for me that have really raised their hands, and I expect to see them going forward into the Bafana setup. After the Botswana game, the Bafana coach Hugo came out and spoke again. And I did everything I could to hold myself to not want to speak about it because I just don't want to give this attention. But I also felt, as someone who is covering football, you got to be able to touch on things that, and sometimes be objective, and as well as also just put your opinion across as well. So Hugo came out and he said that there are players that he will not be picking if there's a camp in November. Of course, he's trying to make sure that there is a camp, but he's saying that there will be players who he won't pick because they just did not raise their hands. And he spoke about the fact that there's a difference in level of PSL and as well as international football. And I think he was trying to imply that the PSL might not be good enough for certain players to sort of make the jump to international football. And he went on to say that he's been meaning to meet up with the coaches. And he says the league says no. And he says November will be the last time he's going to try and meet up with the coaches again. Let me start off with Hugo I think Hugo must sometimes learn to hold his tongue. I think some things you don't need to say in the public. I do not think you need to say them. I think sometimes just stick to the positive because he's very honest within his assessment. And you can see there's frustrations that he does have, but sometimes people tend to read that very wrong. So I would advise him that if you're going to say something negative, like the league maybe might not be good enough, I would suggest keep that to yourself. Just keep that to yourself. Stick to the positives. Stick to what players did that were really good and players that will stay within the camp. I've dealt with Hugo Now for the public. I have to ask the public as well. Do we tend to share the negative news more than what we share the positive news? Because when you listen to Hugo throughout when he speaks, in his post-match interviews, pre-match interviews, even the press conferences as well, there is positive things that he does say. He said a positive thing about Tembazwane being there. He spoke about the brilliance and performance that Sierra Leone was. But do we as a public, and especially the media, do we share the negative because we're hiding behind these comments? Do we share the negative because that's how we feel? Do we feel that the PSL standard is not good enough? Do we feel the players are not good enough? Are we scared to say it out loud so that we share these comments so much that we don't want to say it ourselves? And I think I've seen that quite a lot in the terms of when Hugo Bruce speaks and when he says something negative, it's shared far more than what he would say as a positive. Do you not like how Safa's run? Maybe you should say it then. Maybe you should say it. But I do feel, though, there are people out there that tend to hide behind these comments and they share that a lot more because that is how they feel about the standard of South African football. I will also say this. It's going to take a lot more than Hugo Bruce to take us back to the glory days. It's going to take a lot more. He can't do it by himself. He can't do it by himself. And for example, he said he's been trying to meet up with the coaches. Why don't you guys go and ask the coaches why they're not meeting up with him? Why don't you ask why the league is saying no? Go check if it's true or not, because that's what Hugo Bruce says, right? So go ask the league why they're not meeting up with him. But I have to say this, man. You want Bafana Bafana to be at an AFCON again, right? You want us to qualify for a World Cup again, right? It's going to take a whole lot more than him. But we all of us, even supporters too, I have a role to play as well. And I'm not going to choose to share a lot more negative than the positives as well, because I'm trying to drive South African football forward. So my remaining message to you guys, it's not only going to be Hugo Bruce to take South African football forward. You have a role to play as well. On a lighter note, there was news that came out this week. You know, it was out of the blue. It was announced by a coach that he's going to Russia. He's going to Lokomotiv Moscow. Now, for people who've been following European football, you've seen this club in the Champions League from time to time throughout the years. Fadlu Davids, the former Orlando Pirates head coach, the former Maritzburg United head coach, he's going there. He's going to be assistant to Joseph Zimbabwe. And Joseph Zimbabwe, he was here with Orlando Pirates. He's the guy who won the MTN the last time he was here. And I got to say, big ups to Fadlu Davids, man. You know, he must have made a serious impression to Joseph, you know, for him to go to Europe and say, you know what, I want that guy from South Africa to come and sit next to me. I mean, that's brilliant. And to be fair to Fadlu Davids as well, he's been professional throughout his career. I think he's been professional even when he's taken interviews as well, just the way he speaks. And remember what he did with Maritzburg United, the way he had them playing at the time as well. And even with Orlando Pirates, they did not win the cup, but they went all the way to the final with regards to the CAF Confederations Cup. So he does have some sort of pedigree as well. And for those who don't know, the Russian league is ranked top 10 in the world. Yep, top 10 in the world. So if you want to highlight how much of a move this is, there you have it. And never mind even that. It's not only just Fadlu Davids, you know. I mean, look on screen there. We've got Benny McCarthy in England. Stephen Pienaar in the Netherlands. We got Bradley Carnell in the USA. Melissa Reddy, I've spoken about her. Pito, now he's going to be going to Saudi Arabia. Quinton Fortune in England too, you know? I mean, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. For me, I look at this list and I think to myself, in such a short space amount of time, all these achievements that have been achieved by South African people, it only tells the South African child, it's okay to dream. And I can tell you what, I'm definitely going to be dreaming. Lyle Lakay, the man who was loaned out from Mamelodi Sundowns and went to Cape Town City. It didn't end there. Lyle Lakay was on radio. He spoke about it. He expressed his feelings. And credit to him, he was very honest. He was very honest. He spoke about the fact that it was not his decision. You know, he wanted to stay and compete, concerning the fact that he was there and Fiso Ngobeni came in and Aubrey Mudiba came in and he still stayed and he competed and he played. he also mentioned that the only coach that he spoke to was Rulani. And Rulani told him that the club is making a different move in terms of where they're going in future. I have to say this is the current defender of the season, just to remind everybody. And listening to that was not nice for me. I needed to get full context from him, so I waited till the interview was available and I listened to it. Players who give that much to the club cannot leave in that manner. I'm not a fan of it. They cannot leave in that manner. I don't think it's fair for 1 minute the decision is this. He's going through into the season, and then the next day, when the player's available, all of a sudden he has to move. And don't get me wrong, it is football, and there is the honest truth about football that has to happen about certain players moving as well. But not when players are defenders of the season. Not when players have scored some crucial goals, And like I said, he was very honest and he put it out there. I think for me, listening to that honesty, I do question whether he does have a future at Mamelodi Sundowns. I don't think so. And obviously considering the ages of the left backs as well, I'm talking about Terence Mashego and as well as himself, I think Mamelodi Sundowns are going to move on from it because he did not necessarily paint Mamelodi Sundowns into a great light. But for me, Sundowns cannot find themselves in this position again. If you have 3 players that are sufficient to play in one position and can really give quality as well, I think you just have to accept that you cannot overload it. And a player has to leave in that manner because it doesn't paint Mamelodi Sundowns in a great light. I listened to that interview and I immediately went back to how Hlomphekane left. I thought that he could have left much better. And don't get me wrong, there's an honesty in football in terms of players need to move on, no doubt. But it was not Lyle Lakay's time to move on. And I think we can accept that. And to be fair, he came out and said that eventually he agreed to the move. But he did say that it was not his decision in the first place. So I would say, Sundowns, please, man. Let's not have this episode again, Let's just not do this episode again. That's what I would say. But as for Lyle Lakay and as for Mamelodi Sundowns, I wish you guys the best of luck, and as well as Cape Town City, good luck. The MTN8 kicks off this weekend, and I gotta tell you, man, it kicks off with a game I've been waiting to see for a very long time. Orlando Pirates hosting Mamelodi Sundowns. At this moment, you would say these are the 2 best teams within the league. Both of them have only lost 1 within their last 5 games in all competitions. And the nice thing about these 2 teams is that they both believe in their philosophy. Jose plays the way he likes to play, and as well as for the 3 coaches at Mamelodi Sundowns, they play the way that they have been playing as well. And I think this is the test Orlando Pirates needed. I think this is what they needed. They need to see where they are because they've been performing well. They've been getting wins. They've been in the top 3 at the moment. And we know Mamelodi Sundowns, what they like and what they are and how dominant they are. And I think what this will show Jose is the fact that how far his squad is off. And also, let's not forget, they are the home team first in the first leg. So they have to make it count, that's for sure. But I have to say this, man. For a while now, Mamelodi Sundowns have been dominating this fixture. I mean, they have been absolutely slaughtering the Bucks for quite some time. Look at the last 5 games. I mean, look at that. I mean, that is, wow. 1-0, 4-1, 3-0, 2-0, 4-1. That's 14 goals and 5 straight wins and 3 clean sheets. Orlando Pirates have not been able to lay a glove on this team every single time that they play. But the difference now that Orlando Pirates have now is that they have a good tactician now, because he has them set out really well. And what we've seen from Orlando Pirates this season is they're hard to score against. They're very hard to score against. And I think for Jose, for the players, for the technical staff, I've got a plan for you guys, right? You want the perfect motivation going into this game against Mamelodi Sundowns, so dominant. I think one thing they can do is do what Mikel Arteta did with Arsenal. There was a tweet that Andile Jali put out when the draw was made. It was of someone who was laughing. And I think everybody knows what that meant. I think take a screenshot of that and put it there on the wall and let the players see it. And that's what one of the players of Mamelodi Sundowns thinks of you. Go make an impression. That's for sure. But I can't talk about all of this and not come out with a prediction, right? I have to say a prediction. It's a hard one, I have to say. I've gone with Orlando Pirates losing this one 2-1. The reason why I've gone with this is because I just feel that Mamelodi Sundowns is, the way that they've been playing, the structure of the team, are just further down the line than what Orlando Pirates is. I don't think Orlando Pirates is there, but I will say Orlando Pirates will definitely give it a good go. But I cannot wait for this fixture. Saturday, 3 p.m. Kaizer Chiefs taking on AmaZulu. Round 2, right? Because they met in the league. And I got to tell you something, man. I think both teams needed the international break. They needed it because, as you can see on screen, they've only mastered 1 clean sheet in the last 5 games. So they were conceding goals. Both teams. They were conceding goals, and I think Brandon Truter and as well as Arthur Zwane needed a break to sort of just work things out as well. I expect AmaZulu to approach the game the same way they approached within the league. If you saw within the league, first half they were really good. And then the second half, when they realized that they couldn't score within the first half, I thought they just were playing away. Let's just make sure we don't lose the tie. And I expect them to play that way. The opportunity for Kaizer Chiefs and as well as for Arthur Zwane is the fact that you've played AmaZulu before. And one thing you cannot afford, Kaizer Chiefs, which has been happening quite a lot this season, Arthur Zwane has also spoken about it, is the slow start. It starts very slow. And he needs to start quickly. He definitely needs to start quickly. And I have to say this, the biggest component for AmaZulu going into this game, their biggest strength is their midfield. They've got Maluleka, they've got Makaulwa, and as well as Buchanan. They're able to just dictate tempo. They're able to control the game, possession as well. Kaizer Chiefs have to try win that battle as well. But the biggest strength for Kaizer Chiefs has to be the striker, Caleb. I think Caleb, the way he performed against SuperSport, it was very simple for me, especially considering watching it live. They just needed to play to his strengths. That's about it. He's a tall guy. I think he's hard to deal with. And that is something that AmaZulu have to fight against. But if Kaizer Chiefs can do that, I think they'll be able to get something from the game as well. But again, I have to say a prediction, right? I'm not going to stand on the fence, but I will show you this. Look at the last 3 games between these two teams. 1-1, 1-1, 0-0. 3 draws in a row. So you know what I think is going to happen? A draw is going to happen. But I think this time around there will be goals. So I'll go with a 1-1. And that's how I see the first legs playing out. It's time for our weekly bet of the week. The purpose of this segment is to show you my bet slip in hopes that it helps yours light and green. The more accurate, the more cash you get. Let's get into it. Got to get into it. It is the bet of the week. But before I tell you what my bet of the week for this weekend is, look at that bet slip. I got it. I'm happy. And this time around, we go into this weekend. Club football is back. I've gone with 2 games, and you will not believe the odds for these 2 games. It's Derby weekend. So the first one, the North London Derby, Arsenal taking on Tottenham. It's a big game for both teams, eh? But I've gone with an Arsenal or draw and under 3.5 goals. So for some reason, I can't see Arsenal losing this game, but I have to give it to Spurs. They can come out with a draw. I don't expect too many goals to happen. I think a 1-1 is capable of happening, but I've gone with that. The second one, the Manchester Derby, City against United. Now, I know you guys are going to say it's Haaland, obvious. Haaland's going to score, obvious. But no, I didn't go with that. I've actually gone with the Manchester City win or draw and under 4.5 goals. I don't think they'll be able to score that many against Manchester United, but I think they'll get the win. Unbelievable. Check these odds out. 3.02. Just for 2 games. Unbelievable. 3 times the money back. Well, that is my bet of the week. That is Bet of the Week, sponsored by Betway. Remember to practice responsible betting at betway.co.za. Until the next one, all the best. We've come to the end of the show. Man, international football is gone. I mean, it had to go. Being honest, it really had to go. Club football is back. It is back. And I'm wishing you a great weekend. And for you who's watching, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified for future episodes.